Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Zebec, right? Some news has come out and things are looking good. You know what I'm saying? Listen, okay, I believe Zebec is preparing for a pump, okay, and we are going to dive into the charts in just a second, okay? I'm just saying this right now because I do believe it's preparing for a pump, but I want to go through the news first. Look, the Zebec ecosystem continues to accelerate. Our June 2025 reported highlights sustained momentum across payroll and card volumes, including the conversion of Science Card UK users into the Zebec cards ecosystem, in addition of the new payroll clients in the US. So we can see, right, monthly volume report, 31.5 million biweekly, 43 monthly, right? 11,700 employees, 230 clients, 52 million volume, almost 12,000 cards issued, 97 countries. Now, here's the thing I also wanted to talk about just for 1 second, right? Someone asked, did we drop from 12K employees? And the answer was no, right? No. We could actually see that we are, this is May, right? Last month, well, not last, technically 2 months ago, before May, we did have 11,000 employees served, and we can see that we have gone up 700. So it's looking good, right? It's looking good. We can see the volume, right? 48.5 million compared to 52, 11,079 cards issued compared to almost 12,000, still 97 countries. The clients went from 227 to 230, right? So everything is increasing. The bi-weekly, the monthly, right? It's up and it's just trending in an upwards trend, right? It's looking good. It's looking healthy. I know some people are going to be like, well, what about the price? Listen, people, right? I can assure you that all of this that you see, this downwards movement is just a preparation to go and burst to the upside. Okay. You have to remember that this sideways movement was almost happening for a full year, practically, 10 and a half to 11 months of the sideways movement before we got a big burst. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take a year again, because the context of these markets, the times in these markets, and the context of Zebec back then, it was simply different. Okay. But you have to understand that big rallies, they do take time. Okay. Just think about it this way, right? You as a human need to go to sleep. You need rest. You need to eat, drink water, even let's say take certain vitamins, whatever, if you want to be 10 out of 10, right? If you want to be feeling 10 out of 10, then you have to be, doing all of this stuff. Okay. And that is just the reality. But at the bare minimum, you pretty much need to sleep, eat, and drink, right? And go to the washroom. That is just like the same thing with the markets, except it's just on a bigger and larger scale. It just takes more time. All of this downwards and kind of sideways movement is just simply Zebec cooling off, resting, and preparing for another rally. Now, why do I think Zebec is potentially going to be pumping very, very soon? Well, because we talked about this in some previous videos, right? On the weekly, right now, this is our lowest low, right? This is our lowest low. This black candle, the bottom of it, that is our lowest low. We were saying how for this week, right, if we're not going to be seeing pumps, we want this current weekly candle to kind of actually close the way it is. It could go even lower technically, right? But we don't really want it to be closing around 0.0027 or lower, right? We kind of want it to close the way it is. So if it does close the way it is, that would form a higher low, which means there's a very high chance that next week, at some point, right? It might not be the Monday, it might not be the Tuesday, but at some point by the end of the week, there's a high chance that we do see a nice weekly candle to the upside. Now, is it going to be like these two candles where things go absolutely crazy? No, most likely not, but that is not the purpose of that candle, right? That is not the purpose of that candle. And, we can even see, right? When we have a low and a higher low weekly candle formed, right? Usually, every time practically there's some type of pump, right? We can see it even over here, right? We have the bottom of this candle. We had a higher low, and then we can see the next 2 to 3 weeks, it just kind of went up. Okay. Remember, the context of the market is different. I know some people will be worried, well, 2 weeks later went down, but listen, context of the market was different. But look, it's the same thing. We have a low over here. We have a higher low. And then guess what happens in the next 3 weeks? We start really going up. Okay. Right. This context is a little bit different because this was retesting off of, this, but it's kind of the same thing, right? We had some type of nice pump. We had, 2 fairly good rejections, and then we started to pump heavily to the upside. So, there's been multiple cases and multiple indications of this type of structure that suggests, every time this does happen, we see some type of rally. Okay. Now, I do think that at the bare minimum, we should be retesting this zone of 0.004. Okay. Because this is the next big relevant support resistance. And we failed to go above it back, on the 11th of July, right? We failed, and that's okay because the market likes to ping pong. And usually the first ping is not going to break through. But usually by the time we ping again, there's a much higher chance that we will. So we really want this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday just to be more maintenance, right? We could even go potentially higher back up to 0.0036, right? But overall, we just want to maintain, this kind of structure, this kind of form, right? We could be potentially forming an order block like this as well, right? We could be forming an order block. So we could see something like, let's just say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, kind of go up. Maybe Monday, Tuesday, tap back into this zone, right? Create a higher low on the daily, and then just continue to go up higher and higher, right? Then it's that simple, ladies and gentlemen, right? Overall, I am bullish on Zebec, right? Sometimes short-term price action, I am bearish, right? And I just tell you, I am bearish. Look, as a monthly candle, this as a monthly candle is actually super beautiful. It really, really is, okay? Look at this monthly candle, okay? Look at it. Now I'm going to show you another monthly candle that looks similar, right? And you let me know what happened the next month to two after. Okay, you let me know what happened next month to after. I went on this Bitcoin chart. I don't know why there's no data, but look, it had a very similar type of chart, right? Where we had a sell-off, right? Because there was some type of rally. Then we had a sell-off, just like the way Zebec sold off. Okay, and now we kind of have a very weak selling candle, which is where we're currently at in July. And then what happened? What happened after that? History, pumps, right? Pumps. So we are literally forming a similar type of structure to what Bitcoin experienced, back over here in February and March, where we had a sell-off, and then we kind of had, some type of weak selling pressure, and then a pump, right? It's literally the same thing, right? Literally the same exact thing is forming, right? We had a pump, we had a sell-off. Now we have a candle that doesn't look healthy in terms of selling pressure. So I do expect some type of pumps coming for Zebec and to Zebec over the next few short months for sure. Like for sure, right? Even if July ends up kind of being a stalemate, I expect August and September to already start pumping it. Okay. And that's just the reality. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.